They forgot my name at every holiday. My number was only good for babysitting or moving furniture. Then one Monday morning, the press release hit. My startup was acquired for $120 million. Within 10 minutes, my phone flooded with 47 voicemails, all from the family who forgot I existed. My name is Marin Doyle, and I am, for all practical purposes, a ghost in my own family. It was a Saturday, one of those heavy, humid Ohio afternoons in Oakfield where the air sticks to your skin. I was at my parents' house. I had driven the 3 hours from Brookhaven because it was, according to the shared calendar I was inexplicably still on, a designated family lunch. I was the one who cooked. I always was. I had made a roasted chicken with thyme and lemon, Parmesan-crusted potatoes, and a green bean salad with toasted almonds. The smell filled the house, warm and inviting. It was a lie. The television was deafening. My father, Gerald, was 6 inches from the screen, watching a baseball game. His body tensed as if he could physically will the pitcher to throw better. My mother, Elaine, was on the floor, building a lopsided tower of blocks with my sister's 2 children, her voice pitched high in that grandma coo that grated on my nerves. And my sister, Bree, was in the dining room, which she had converted into a temporary studio. She had a ring light set up, her phone balanced on a tripod. She was live, selling a new line of mineral-infused, anti-aging face mists. "This pigment is just everything," she chirped to her phone, her voice echoing with a slight digital delay. "It gives you that glow, you know? That effortless, I just woke up like this vibe." I placed the heavy roasting pan on the table. The steam rose in front of my face. "The food's ready," I called out. Gerald grunted. Elaine said, "In a minute. Sweetie, we just need to find the blue block." Bree waved a manicured hand backward, signaling for silence. I stood there for a moment, the heat from the pan seeping through the oven mitts. I had flown in that morning on the 6:15 flight, slept for maybe 2 hours on the plane, and come straight here from the airport, stopping only for the groceries I paid for. They eventually shuffled to the table. Plates were filled. The television volume was lowered from a roar to a dull shout. I cleared my throat. This was why I had come. I had practiced this. A small, positive update. A way to connect. "So, I had some good news this week," I started. My father's eyes flicked to the chicken. "This is good. Marin, a little dry, maybe." "Thanks. Anyway, Lumen Path." "Oh, did you see that?" he barked, pointing his fork at the screen. "That was a terrible call. The umpire is blind." "Lumen Path," I tried again, louder. "We just landed the final presentation slot for the St. Meridian medical trial. If we get it, it's a 5-hospital network. It would be huge." Silence. The only sounds were the scrape of silverware on porcelain, the sports announcer's drone, and Bree, in the next room, saying, "And if you use my code, BREEGLOW, you get 10% off plus a free cosmetic bag." No one looked up, not my mother, who was cutting her grandson's food into microscopic pieces, not my father, who was analyzing a slow-motion replay. I felt the familiar, cold sensations settle in my stomach. It was the feeling of invisibility, of speaking into a void and not even getting an echo back. I picked up my phone. It felt heavy in my hand. A few days earlier, I had accomplished something real, something tangible. I had sent a message to our family group chat. It was a simple professional text. LumenPath signed its first contract. I looked at the message again. Underneath it, 3 small, circular profile pictures, my father's, my mother's, Bree's, all indicating seen. There were no replies, no congratulations, no "what's that?" Not even a thumbs-up emoji. The chat history above it was a flurry of activity from last week. Bree posting 20 photos of my nephew's soccer game, my mother replying with 17 heart-eyed emojis, and my father sending a link about refinishing decks. My accomplishments did not exist. They were not interesting. They were not about them. The clatter of the table brought me back. I thought of my 18th birthday. It was supposed to be a joint celebration with Bree, whose wedding was the following weekend. My party was quietly, efficiently erased. It became a bridal shower planning session. When I'd meekly mentioned it was my actual birthday, my mother had patted my arm, her eyes frantic, focused on floral arrangements. "We know, honey, but Bree is just so stressed. You understand." I did. I always did. I blew out the candles on a slice of leftover pound cake by myself in the kitchen at midnight. I thought of my college graduation, summa cum laude. I'd given a small speech for my department. My father left halfway through the ceremony. He'd texted me. "Had to go. Bree needs a ride to that job interview in Columbus. She's really nervous. I found my own ride home." "You're just so capable, Marin." That was my mother's constant refrain, her justification for everything. It wasn't a compliment. It was a cage. It meant I had no needs. It meant I was the family's designated shock absorber, the one who could handle the neglect because Bree had kids and was just so busy. I was the one who could take care of myself. And so I did. I stood up from the table. My plate was still half full. The chicken I'd spent hours on tasted like ash. "You're not finishing?" my mother asked, her attention finally on me, but only to note my deviation from the script. "I have to go," I said. "What? But you just got here. We were going to have pie." "I have to get back. I have a demo on Monday morning with a hospital." My father sighed, annoyed. "Always working. That one. You'll burn yourself out. You should be more like your sister. Find some balance." Balance. Bree was currently describing the devastating effects of poor impurities to 400 anonymous viewers, while her mother cut up her children's food 10 feet away. "Right," I said. I went to the sink and began to wash the dishes. "Oh, leave those, honey," my mother called. "You can do them after pie." The assumption, the casual, thoughtless assumption that my time was theirs to allocate. I said nothing. I just washed. I dried. I put away the roasting pan, the cutting board, the knives. I scrubbed the grease from the stovetop. I wiped down the counters until the laminate gleamed. Bree finished her live stream and floated into the kitchen, energized. "God, I am exhausted. That was insane. I think I sold $2,000 in mist." She grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge, completely ignoring the mountain of food I had prepared. "Mom, can you watch the kids Thursday? I have a call with a collagen brand." "Of course, baby," my mother said, beaming. "Whatever you need." I took off the apron, folded it, and placed it on the hook by the door. I pulled out my phone and tapped through the airline app. My flight was for Sunday afternoon. I changed it to the 9:40 p.m. red-eye. Tonight, the change fee was $175. I paid it without blinking. "I'm heading out," I said, grabbing the purse I hadn't even bothered to set down. "But Marin," my mother started, her face crumpling into confusion. "Pie." "Sorry, the demo is critical." My father grunted from the living room. Bree was already scrolling through her phone, tallying her sales. "Well, drive safe," my mother said, hovering in the doorway, that familiar look of mild inconvenience on her face. "And thanks for lunch. It was lovely." I walked out to my car. I did not look back. I arrived at my apartment in Brookhaven at 2:30 in the morning. It was a small one-bedroom over a defunct bakery, and it smelled faintly of stale yeast. It was also the only place on earth I felt sane. The first thing I did was walk to my living room. There were no couches, just 2 standing desks, a server rack humming quietly in the corner, and a massive 8-foot whiteboard that covered the entire wall. It was a beautiful, chaotic mess. It was covered in triage algorithms, notes on patient flow, diagrams of sensor hardware, and the entire complex application pathway for medical device certification. I looked at the mess from the family lunch, and I looked at this. This was my life. This was real. Pinned to the corner of the board was a sticky note I'd written a year ago, right after another disastrous family visit. In black Sharpie, I'd written 5 words. "Stop being the shadow. Focus. Product, team, clients." My phone buzzed. A calendar notification. Family reunion planning. Lake House. I opened the email. It was a mass invite from a distant aunt. Marin, please plan to come early to help set the tables and organize the potluck sign-in. I deleted the email without replying. I thought about the last time I had real news. A few months ago, we had just closed our seed round, $1.2 million. It was terrifying and exhilarating. I had called my mother, my hands shaking, needing to tell someone who was supposed to care. "Mom," I'd said, "we did it. We closed the round. $1.2 million. There was a pause. I heard a cartoon playing in the background. "Oh, that's wonderful. Honey, $1 million. Wow. Listen, speaking of, are you free this weekend? Bree needs to go to a conference, and I have my book club. Could you watch the kids? Just Saturday?" I had hung up. I told her I had a work emergency. I learned then, you cannot explain. You cannot beg for their attention. It is a waste of oxygen. I went to my phone's settings. I found the family group chat. I looked at my last unread message one more time. Then I hit mute notifications. Forever. I grabbed another sticky note and a pen. I looked at the whiteboard, at the goals we had set for the next quarter. We were at 5 hospital trials. It felt impossible. I wrote a new note and stuck it next to the first one. Personal milestone. 100 hospital trials. When you hit this, you are done. You stop asking. You stop needing. You stop looking back. I pulled a packet of cheap ramen from the cupboard, boiled the water, and sat on the floor, eating from the pot, looking at the board. I had a demo in 6 hours. I had work to do. LumenPath was not a glamorous idea. It was born from necessity, from the cold, hard math of human suffering. It was a software suite combined with a small, handheld biometric sensor. In an emergency room, a triage nurse touches the sensor to a patient's hand, and our algorithm reads 5 different markers: skin conductivity, pulse oximetry, temperature, capillary refill time. It doesn't diagnose. It prioritizes. It cuts through the chaos. It finds the quiet 60-year-old having a heart attack in seat 4 and flags him as more critical than the screaming 20-year-old with a dislocated shoulder in seat 3. It was a tool to manage the panic. Our headquarters, our world office, was a defunct auto body shop on Willow Key, tucked behind a laundromat. The cavernous space still smelled faintly of motor oil and rubber. A scent we tried to mask with an industrial-sized coffee pot that ran 24 hours a day. We didn't have cubicles. We had 2 8-foot hollow-core doors laid across sawhorses. The windows were opaque with grime. And there were 3 of us. We were the entire company. There was Diego Ramos, my co-founder and our chief technology officer. He was a quiet, brilliant man who saw algorithms as poetry. He was the one who taught the machine how to listen to the body's whispers. Then there was Priya Alcott, our clinical lead. She had been an ER nurse for 15 years, and she had the scars to prove it. A permanent exhaustion in her eyes and an intolerance for bullshit. She was our connection to the real world, the one who kept our tech from becoming arrogant. And there was me. I was the founder and CEO, which meant I was the one who coded the user interface, negotiated with vendors, took out the trash, and flew to Ohio to be ignored. I will never forget our first major demo, St. Meridian Hospital. We weren't in a sleek boardroom. We were in the ER break room, which smelled of burnt popcorn and disinfectant. We were presenting to Dr. Aris, the ER shift lead, a man who looked like he hadn't slept since the 90s. He crossed his arms, his skepticism radiating off him like heat. "Chest pain," he said flatly, skipping the pleasantries. "You're telling me your little box can tell me the difference between indigestion and an aortic dissection? That it knows better than I do?" Priya stepped in, her voice calm. "It's not about knowing better, doctor. It's about data velocity. It's about getting the right patient to you, faster. It's a second set of eyes on everyone at once." I plugged in the laptop. I brought up the dashboard, our live test environment, and then the nightmare. The graph froze. The cursor spun. It was only 7 seconds, in that break room, under those flickering fluorescent lights. It felt like 7 years. I could feel the oxygen leaving the room. I could see Aris's jaw tighten. He was already done with us. Diego, standing in the back, looked like he was going to be physically ill. I didn't make excuses. I didn't blame the hospital's Wi-Fi. I didn't stammer. I closed the laptop. The click echoed in the small room. Dr. Aris, that was unacceptable, I said, my voice steady, though my heart was hammering against my ribs. The data isn't caching correctly on the local instance. It's slow, and in your world, slow is dangerous. Give me 24 hours. I will be back here tomorrow at this same time, and it will work. I promise you. He just stared at me. Then he nodded once, a sharp, dismissive movement. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. We left. We did not speak on the drive back to the garage. We worked all night. Diego found the memory leak in the core code. I stayed up until dawn rewriting the caching protocol from scratch, my fingers flying. We didn't test it. We didn't have time. At 10 a.m., we were back in the break room. I plugged in. The dashboard snapped to life instantly. The live data streamed. The graphs were fluid and clean. Aris watched for a full minute. He tried to break it, running 3 simulated patient inputs at once. The system didn't blink. Fine, he said. That fine got us the pilot. A 60-day trial, not just St. Meridian, but all 5 hospitals in their network. The terms were brutal, no pay. We had to integrate with their ancient charting system. And the kicker? If we could not prove a verifiable 18% reduction in door-to-doctor wait times for critical patients, they would rip us out, and we would get nothing. If we hit the metric, they would convert to a paid multi-year contract. We signed the agreement before we left the room. The day the trial went live, an email landed in my inbox. The sender was from Northbridge Meridian Ventures, a name that made my stomach flutter. It was a real venture capital fund, the kind that didn't bother with auto body shops. The subject was just LumenPath. The message was 5 sentences long. Heard about the some Meridian trial. Impressive terms. Sounds like you bet the whole company. I like that. Call us when you have the data. And Marin, don't sell your soul too early. Those 60 days were a different kind of hell. We weren't a company. We were a MASH unit. Startup life isn't about vision boards and kombucha on tap. It's about the grind. It was 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, and I was on my hands and knees on the cold concrete floor, a Phillips screwdriver in my hand, physically swapping out RAM modules in our main server because we were hitting capacity. Across the room, Priya was hunched over her laptop, writing the IRB protocols for patient data ethics, her eyes red-rimmed from reading dense legal documents for hours. In the corner, Diego was mainlining caffeine, headphones on, muttering to himself as he fine-tuned the acute pain recognition model. He was trying to teach the machine the difference between the signal for a broken bone and the signal for internal bleeding. We lived on our Trello board. It was our Bible. We didn't track buzz or media hits. We had one card I had pinned to the top of our workflow. Hospital Trust, Vanity Metrics. That meant if a nurse sent an email saying the sensor felt too cold on a patient's skin, that was a priority 1 bug. If a doctor complained that the dashboard font was 2 points too small to read at a glance, we fixed it in an hour. The crisis came on a Saturday night, week 3 of the trial. A cascade failure. Our main server cluster, which was still physically located in a ventilated closet in our garage office, went dark. All 5 hospitals, flatlined. My phone exploded. Priya was on a call, her voice high with panic. Diego was just staring at a command line, frozen. I don't know, he kept saying. I don't know. I grabbed my keys. Stay on the line with the hospitals, I told Priya. Diego, find the point of failure. I'm going to the office. I drove 90 miles an hour through the empty streets of Rookhaven. I spent the next 8 hours in that server closet, the fans roaring in my ears. The air was hot and dry. I slept on the dirty linoleum for 20-minute increments, my cheek pressed against the floor. A laptop opened next to me. It wasn't a hardware failure. It was an external attack. Someone had tried to breach us. I spent the rest of the night on the phone, one by one. With the on-call IT staff at every single hospital, I had to beg, plead, and cajole them to manually whitelist our new IP addresses at 3 in the morning on a weekend. By 6 a.m. on Sunday, we were back up. On Monday, Priya ran the numbers for week 3. She walked over to my desk, her face pale. "Marin," she said, her voice quiet. "Look at this." She turned her laptop around. St. Meridian. Their average door-to-doctor time for critical patients hadn't just gone down. It had dropped by 22%. We had our all-hands meeting that afternoon, all 3 of us, smelling like sweat and old coffee. "They're seeing it," Priya said, her voice thick with emotion. "It's working. They're getting to the critical patients faster. We're actually doing it." I looked at them, my team, the people who had been in the trenches with me. "I want to remind you why we're doing this," I said, my voice rough. "We don't solve data problems. We solve time problems. We are giving people back time. And in an emergency room, time isn't just a metric. It's dignity. It's the difference between being terrified in a hallway for an hour and being seen. We are solving for dignity." The St. Meridian data unlocked the money. We went to Northbridge Meridian. We went to others. The pilot data was undeniable. We closed our seed round 2 months later, $3.8 million. The company was valued at $18 million. It felt like monopoly money. It was real. We could hire 2 engineers. We could hire a part-time office manager. We could move out of the garage and into a real office space with windows that opened. The investors insisted I take a real salary. I set it at $58,000 a year. It was just enough to cover my apartment, my student loans, and my ramen. Every other dollar went back into the company. We needed to extend the runway. We had to last. I was in the new office, buried in a spreadsheet modeling our burn rate, when my phone buzzed on the desk, a text message. I glanced at it. It was from my mother. My stomach did its familiar cold flip. I hadn't heard from her since that disastrous Saturday lunch. I opened the message. "Hi, sweetie. Your father is cleaning out the storage unit this weekend. Can you bring your folding chairs over? We can't find ours." I read the text 3 times. Folding chairs. I had just raised nearly $4 million. I was running a company that was literally saving lives. I was managing a valuation of $18 million. I hadn't had a full night's sleep in 2 years. And she wanted to know about my folding chairs. I set the phone down on the desk, screen side down. I did not reply. I turned back to the spreadsheet. 6 months later, it was pouring rain in Rookhaven, the kind of cold, miserable November night that seeps into your bones. I was at my desk, the only one left in the office. I had just gotten off a video call with a hospital network in Oregon. I clicked send on the signed PDF. Hospital number 25, a paid contract. We were real. We were sustainable. I leaned back in my chair and looked out the window at the wet, glistening street. I felt a quiet, fierce kernel of pride that was entirely my own. It had no one else's fingerprints on it. I shut down my laptop, put on my coat, and walked out into the rain. I went to a shoe store down the street, one I always walked past but never entered. I bought a new pair of waterproof leather boots. They cost $70. They were the first new pair of shoes I had bought in 2 years. I wore them out of the store, leaving my old, cracked sneakers in the box. It was a gift, from me to me. It arrived on a Tuesday morning. It wasn't a thunderclap. It was just another line item in an inbox overflowing with compliance checks, server patch notifications, and client integration schedules. The subject line was 3 words: confidential acquisition interest. The sender wasn't a person I knew, but the domain name made my stomach clench. Veris and Vale Health. Veris and Vale wasn't just a hospital network. They were a global healthcare conglomerate. They were a leviathan. They were the kind of company that bought innovators like us, strip-mined the intellectual property, and shuttered the original team within a year. It felt less like an opportunity and more like a predator sighting. 2 days later, I was on the 32nd floor of their North American headquarters. The conference room was an exercise in minimalist power. Floor-to-ceiling glass overlooked the entire city of Brookhaven. The table was a single, massive slab of dark wood that felt cold to the touch. On one side, there was me, wearing the only blazer I owned. On the other side sat Claudine Pierce, the CEO of Varus and Vale. She had a smile that was bright, white, and perfectly symmetrical. It did not, for 1 second, reach her eyes. Beside her sat her general counsel, a man whose face looked like it had been carved from granite. He did not smile at all. "Marin," Claudine began, her voice as smooth as the table. "We are profoundly impressed with what you've built. Lumen Path is a remarkable piece of engineering." I didn't say thank you. I just nodded, waiting. "We see its potential," she continued, "and we believe that with Varus and Vale's resources, we can scale it globally, instantly. So, we'd like to make an offer. $72 million, all cash, an asset purchase agreement, will absorb your IP, and you and your key team members will be offered very generous retention packages." Asset purchase, there it was, the trap. They wanted to buy the stuff, the code, the patents, but not the company, not the mission, not the team. I didn't pause to consider it. I had been preparing for this move, in one form or another, for a year. "No," I said. Claudine's smile twitched, just a fraction. "I beg your pardon?" "Thank you for the offer, but no, we are not for sale as a collection of assets. If you want Lumen Path, you are acquiring a company, a team, and a mission. The team stays. The integration roadmap is collaborative, and we are not interested in retention packages. We are interested in an acquisition." The lawyer looked at his watch. My rejection, from her offer to my counter, had taken less than 4 minutes. "That's a very firm stance for a company your size, Marin," Claudine said, the smile gone. "It's the only one I have," I replied. $72 million for our code is a non-starter. It's the team and the mission, or we have nothing else to discuss. I gathered my notebook, my pen. I stood up. "Thank you for the coffee." I was halfway to the massive glass door when her voice cut through the silence. "Wait." I returned to the office, my hands shaking so badly I could barely use my keycard. I pulled Diego and Priya into the only room we had with a door, the server closet. The roar of the fans muffled our voices. I told them. Priya, our clinical lead, just stared at the wall, her face pale. $72 million, she whispered. She was calculating her share. I couldn't blame her. Diego, our CTO, was quiet. He just looked at the floor. He knew exactly what asset purchase meant. It meant his algorithm would be ripped out and plugged into Varus and Vale's bloated ancient legacy system, where it would die a slow, inefficient death. Later that night, a message popped up in our private Slack channel. It was from Diego. "Diego, they just want the code. I know it. They'll bury it. Marin, if you sell for cash, we'll all be rich. I'll stay with you. You know that. The whole team will. But you promised me something when we started this. You promised this product would get to live, that it would mean something." He was right. I had promised him, in that first garage office, that we weren't building this just to get rich. We were building it to make a difference. The next morning, Priya came to my desk. The $ haze had cleared from her eyes. They were hard, focused. She was the nurse again. "If they come back, and they will, I want something," she said, her voice low. "I don't care about the money. I want a mandatory deployment clause." "What does that mean?" "I want it in the sales agreement, that Varus and Vale is contractually obligated to deploy Lumen Path at full capacity to their entire network of rural and critical access emergency rooms within 18 months of closing, non-negotiable." I leaned back. This was a radical demand. "Priya, they will laugh us out of the room. They'll say the market dictates deployment, not us." "Then let them laugh," she retorted, her voice fierce. "Those are the hospitals that need us most. They're the ones with no staff, no resources, and patients driving 2 hours to be seen. That's why we built this. Or did we build it just to make shareholders in New York happy? You decide." Varys and Vale came back 2 days later. This time, they came to our office. The real one, not the garage. But it was still humble. Claudine's expensive heels clicked with slight uncertainty on our sealed concrete floors. We sat at our sawhorse table. "We are prepared to discuss an acquisition of the company," Claudine said, getting straight to it. "Not just the assets." "Good," I said. "Then let's talk about the mission clause." I laid out Priya's demand. The 18-month rural deployment. The lawyer, who had come with her again, actually scoffed. It was a short, dry bark. "Ms. Doyle, let me be blunt. No one puts ethical key performance indicators into a sales and purchase agreement. We don't do it. The market doesn't do it. We buy the company. We decide the rollout strategy, period." "We do," I said. "That's absurd." "Then we're done," I said. "This isn't a feature. It's the core of the product. You don't get one without the other." This was the beginning of the real war, the due diligence. They weren't just kicking the tires. They were trying to rip the wheels off. They sent in a team of 20 analysts to tear our code, our contracts, and our data apart. They were trying to find leverage, a flaw, anything to devalue us and make us drop the absurd ethical clause. The attack came on a Thursday video call. Their head of data science, a man with a smug look, shared his screen. "We found a significant anomaly, Ms. Doyle," he said, clearly pleased. "Your error rate on vague abdominal pain presentation is 4% higher than your baseline." This was it, the moment they would use to break us. I was ready. I had seen this in their prep files. "You're correct," I said, my voice calm. "It is higher. Vague abdominal pain is the single most difficult symptom to triage, but you're looking at the wrong number." I shared my own screen. I opened the dashboard from our St. Meridian pilot. "Look at this number," I said, highlighting a metric. "Left without being seen. The LWBS rate. The national average in Varys and Vale hospitals is 3.2%. That's patients who get tired of waiting in pain and just go home, or die in the parking lot. At St. Meridian, where we deployed 6 months ago, the LWBS rate is 0.5%. We reduced the give-up rate by over 80%. I leaned into my camera. "So yes, our algorithm struggles with stomach aches, but it makes damn sure the person having the aortic aneurysm gets seen. Which number matters more to Varys and Vale?" The data scientist was silent. Their next offer came via email, $95 million, with a 2-year earnout dependent on our team hitting their integration targets. It was a trap. The earnout meant they could fire us in 6 months, claim we failed to integrate, and void the rest of the payment. I let the email sit for 48 hours. I did not respond. My silence was my only weapon. That night, I had a late call with our lead investor at Northbridge Meridian Ventures. "They're trying to choke you with the earnout," he said. His voice was calm. He'd seen this game 100 times. "I know," I said, pacing my small apartment, "and they won't budge on the rural clause." "They will," he said. "Listen to me. Marin, the word is out. I've had 2 very large competitors of theirs call me this week, asking if you're sniffing around. They know you're in play. Varys and Vale needs this win. They need your tech before someone else gets it. This is your moment of maximum leverage." So what do I do? You don't ask for 95. You ask for 120. All cash and equivalent stock. No earnout. And you tell them the rural clause is the price of admission. It's non-negotiable. 120 million? The words felt fake in my mouth. "Don't flinch," he said. "If you can get them to put that mission clause in writing, even as an appendix, you take anything over 110, but you start at 120, and you look them in the eye when you say it." The final meeting was on neutral ground, the Hotel Glasshouse, in a private conference room that cost more per hour than our first office cost per year. It was just me, Claudine, and the lawyer. I laid out the terms: 120 million, all cash and equivalent stock, no earnout, and the 18-month rural deployment clause goes into the agreement. The lawyer started to speak, This is. Claudine put a hand on his arm, silencing him. She looked at me for a long time. She was calculating. She was seeing the purchase price, but also the cost of walking away and letting her competitor get us. The rural clause, she said, is a problem for our shareholders. It dictates operations. It's the deal, I said. The lawyer spoke, his voice tight. We can put it in an appendix, as a statement of mission intent, not legally binding as part of the core SPA, but attached. He was giving me an out that wasn't an out, a symbolic victory. No, I said. It goes in, Appendix B, a binding commitment, or we walk. Claudine Pierce stared at me. Then, for the first time, her smile reached her eyes. It was a smile of respect, of recognition. All right, she said. 120 million, cash and stock, and Appendix B. Send the final wireframes to my legal team. It was done. We signed the final papers a week later. The stack was a foot high. My hand was cramping. As I pushed the last signed page across the table, my hand was shaking. It wasn't the money. I couldn't even process the number. It was Appendix B. Priya's clause. The rural deployment. It was in. It was locked. The deal was under a strict press embargo. It wouldn't be announced until 7 a.m., the following Monday. I walked out of the law office into the bright afternoon. I didn't take a cab. I walked the 2 miles to the riverfront, the signed closing documents heavy in my bag. I pulled out my phone. My thumb hovered over the family group chat. I saw the last message from my mother, weeks ago, about the folding chairs. I closed it. I dialed Diego. He and Priya were waiting anxiously at the office. It's done, I said. I heard Priya scream in the background. Diego was just breathing. Did we get it, Marin? He asked, his voice thick. Did we get the clause? We got the clause, I said. Then we did it, he replied. We actually did it. I hung up and watched the water. I was the founder of a company that had just been sold for $120 million, and I had never felt more completely and wonderfully alone. Monday morning, I was already awake, sitting on the edge of my bed, watching the sunrise paint the brick wall of the building across from my apartment. The embargo was scheduled to lift at 7 a.m. At 7:04 a.m., my phone, which had been silent on the nightstand, lit up. It wasn't a call. It was a push notification from a financial news app. Then another, and another. The Wall Street Journal, TechCrunch, Bloomberg, Lumenpath, Varus and Vale, 120 million. I watched the screen as the headlines piled up on top of each other. I took a slow breath. I had known this was coming. I had prepared. At 7:12 a.m., the phone screen changed. It was an incoming call. The picture was of my mother, Elaine, from 10 years ago, smiling at a barbecue. I let it ring. It clicked off. A second later, the small red bubble with the number 1 appeared over the voicemail icon. Before I could even process it, the screen lit up again, my mother, calling back immediately. I declined the call. The phone buzzed again, this time with a text. My mother. Marin, call me. Pick up. Then the phone rang again. My father. Gerald. I declined. Voicemail bubble, 2. Then Bree, declined. Voicemail bubble, 3. Then a number I didn't recognize from Oakfield. Then my mother again. Then my father. Then my Aunt Patty, who hadn't spoken to me since I'd missed a cousin's baby shower 4 years ago. The phone began to vibrate uncontrollably. It wasn't just ringing. It was a cascade of notifications, texts, and calls, one on top of the other, creating a frantic, unending buzz on the wood of my nightstand. It vibrated so hard it started to move, skittering toward the edge. I watched it, dispassionately. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and started the coffee machine. The sound of the grinder whirring, the water heating, was a comfort. It was a real sound, a predictable process. My phone continued its seizure in the other room. I poured the hot coffee into my favorite mug, the one I'd bought at the shoe store, a small reward. I walked back to the bedroom. The missed call count was at 19. The voicemail bubble read 11. I sat on the bed. I put the phone on Do Not Disturb. The buzzing stopped. The screen went dark. Silence. I opened the phone app. I looked at the list of voicemails. The system was transcribing them, one after another, the text appearing in small, neat blocks. I didn't need to listen to their voices. I could just read. Voicemail number 1, 7:12 a.m., my mother. Transcription. Oh, Marin, honey, I just saw the news. My goodness, I am so proud of you. So proud. 100. It's just, call me. We are so proud. I love you. I took a sip of coffee. It was hot, bitter. Proud. It was a word they used when it was convenient, when it reflected on them. Voicemail number 2, 7:13 a.m., my father. Transcription. Hey there, little girl. That's my little girl. Ha! I saw the news. Fantastic. Just fantastic. When are you coming home? We have got to have a celebration. A real party. Call me. We'll get the good steaks. Little girl. I was 31. I hadn't been his little girl since I'd learned to tie my own shoes. I was the family utility. Until today, I was his winning lottery ticket. I scrolled down. The list was growing as new messages poured in, bypassing the Do Not Disturb and going straight to the box. Voicemail number 7, 7:18 a.m., Bree. Transcription. Hey, sis. Oh my God. This is insane. 1:20 m? Like, wow. Crazy. Listen, I know you are probably just slammed, but I had an idea. I've been thinking about a new branding direction, and this just changes everything. We really need to talk about a family investment opportunity, a way to, grow this for all of us. It's big. Call me. There it was. It took her less than 10 minutes to pivot from congratulations to business opportunity. She didn't even bother with the congratulations part. Voicemail number 13, 7:25 a.m., Aunt Patty. Transcription. Marin, dear, it's your Aunt Patty. I just heard. Oh, you have just grown up so fast. We are all just thrilled to pieces for you. You must be so happy. Grown up fast. I hadn't seen her in 4 years. The phone vibrated in my hand. A new voicemail. The bubble now read 19. My mother again. Transcription. Marin, I'm serious. Call me. I already told the ladies at the church group you'd be home this weekend. We're all going to go out to Vale and Vine for dinner. I'll make the reservation. Just let me know what time your flight gets in. You can stay in your old room. She was making plans for me. She was performing. She was telling her church group, basking in the reflected glow of a number she couldn't possibly comprehend, and assuming I would just appear, on command, to be paraded. The coffee was cooling. I took another sip. I kept scrolling. The numbers were blurring. 21, 24. Voicemail number 26, 7:38 a.m. My father. His tone had changed. The transcription caught the lower volume. Transcription. Marin, pick up. It's your father. Listen, I'm in a bit of a tight spot with the mortgage. Your mother doesn't know. I was talking to the bank about a bridge loan. Just a small thing. But with this news, it would be nothing for you. I already told them my daughter would probably co-sign. It's just paperwork. We can get it sorted when you come home for the celebration. Call me. It's important. My blood went cold. Not, can you help? Not, I have a problem. He had already told them. He had already offered up my name, my financial future, as collateral. He had already volunteered me. My hand was steady. I placed the mug on the nightstand. Voicemail number 31, 7:45 a.m., Bree. It wasn't a transcription. It was an audio file. She had recorded her kids. I pressed play. The volume low, a high-pitched, coached voice. My nephew. Hi, Aunt Marin. Wow, we miss you. Then my niece. Aunt Marin, we love you. Come see us. Aunt Marin. They had never called me that, not once. It was always just Marin, or more often, when I was in the room. Her, as in, go give that to her. Bree's voice came on at the end, sickeningly sweet. See? They miss their amazing, successful aunt. We all do. Aunt, a title I hadn't earned, but could now apparently purchase. I kept scrolling. The tone was shifting. The initial, performative pride was dissolving, replaced by a raw, frantic impatience. Voicemail number 36, 8:02 a.m. My mother. Transcription. Marin Doyle, what is wrong with you? I know you see these calls. Your sister is worried. I am worried. You get a little success and you forget your family. Pick up the phone. This is not how you were raised. Voicemail number 41, 8:15 a.m. My mother again. The transcription was all caps. Transcription. This is ridiculous. Family calls. You pick up. I don't know what's gotten into you. Are you even going to bother to call us back, or are you too good for us now? Too good for them. I had been too good for them when I was too busy with my startup to babysit. I had been too good when I was too focused on my career to come home for a potluck. Now, I was too good, because I wasn't answering the phone they had only ever used to ask for things. I reached the bottom of the list. It was 8:30 a.m. The number of voicemails was 47. The last one was from Bree. It had come in 1 minute ago. The transcription was short, sharp, and cold. The sweetness was gone. The performance was over. Voicemail number 47, 8:29 a.m., Bree. Transcription. I see how it is. You've got your money, and now you're going to ice us out. After everything we did for you, if you don't help this family, if you don't even bother to call back, you are betraying us. That's all this is. Betrayal. Betrayal. The word hung in the air of my quiet apartment. Betrayal was forgetting my 18th birthday for a wedding. Betrayal was leaving my graduation to give your other daughter a ride to an interview. Betrayal was ignoring my calls for 2 years unless you needed folding chairs. I set the phone down on the bed. I stood up. I breathed in. I breathed out. My pulse was even. I was not angry. I was not sad. I was validated. Everything I had thought, everything I had felt, the invisibility, the coldness, it was all real, and this was the proof. I walked back to the kitchen and rinsed my coffee mug. My phone buzzed on the bed, a different sound, a text message. I walked back and picked it up. It wasn't from Ohio, it was from Diego. Diego. Press is going nuts. They all want a founder quote. What do I tell them? I looked at the chaos of my call log, the 47 red bubbles, the accusations of betrayal, the hands reaching for my wallet. I typed my reply to Diego. Marin, give them the mission line. Tell them, we're proud of the acquisition, but the real work begins now, ensuring that every patient in every emergency room, rural or urban, gets the dignity of being seen. That's the quote, nothing else. I sent it. I turned back to my call log. I opened my laptop. I created a new folder on my secure drive. I titled it, Voicemails, Archive. One by one, I exported the audio files, all 47 of them. I didn't listen. I didn't need to. I just dragged them, filed them, and saved them. I did not delete them. I archived them. When I was done, I cleared the notifications from my phone. The screen was clean again. I had work to do. I didn't answer the 47 voicemails. I didn't reply to the texts. I blocked the numbers of the extended family I hadn't heard from in years. I let my parents and Bree go straight to voicemail, where their messages continued to pile up, a digital monument to their panic. For 3 days, I worked. I met with the Varies and Vale integration team. I had one-on-ones with every member of my staff to assure them of their new roles. I worked with Diego and Priya to define the first phase of the rural deployment, the one I had fought for. I lived in spreadsheets, legal documents, and project timelines. It was clean. It was logical. On Thursday night, I took my team, the real team, the ones who had bled for this, to dinner, Diego, Priya, and our first 5 hires. We went to Vale and Vine, the same restaurant my mother had tried to book for her parade. It was the best place in Rookhaven, and I had reserved the private wine cellar. We were halfway through a bottle of Cabernet, celebrating. Diego was telling a story about the server crash, the one that almost killed us, and we were finally able to laugh about it. The food was incredible. I was looking at their faces, these people who had believed in me when I was just a crazy woman in a garage, and I felt a warmth I couldn't ever remember feeling in Oakfield. I felt happy. My phone, sitting face down on the table, vibrated. I ignored it. It was a rule I had. When I was with my team, I was with them. It vibrated again and again, a frantic, insistent buzzing. Priya noticed. "You should probably get that," she said, nodding. "It's probably Varus and Vale." I sighed, apologizing, and flipped the phone over. It was my mother. 6 missed calls in 2 minutes, and a new text. I opened it. "Marin, we are here." I frowned. "Here where? At the restaurant?" Another text came through before I could reply. "We are outside your apartment. The man at the front desk won't let us up. We drove all the way. Let us in." My blood ran cold, not with fear, not with anger, but with a profound, icy clarity. They had driven 3 hours, uninvited, unannounced. They were not respecting the silence. They were escalating. They had bypassed the phone and were now attempting a physical breach. I put the phone down. I picked up my wine glass. I took a slow sip. Diego was watching me. "Everything okay, boss?" "It's fine," I said. I looked at the phone. They were waiting. They expected me to panic, to apologize, to run from my own celebration, to drive home and let them in. They expected the old Marin. I picked up the phone. I didn't call. I sent a text message. My thumbs were perfectly steady. "2. Mom, I am not available tonight. I will not be coming to my apartment. If you wish to speak with me, I have a 15-minute opening tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. You can meet me in the lobby of the Harbor Light Tower." I sent it. My mother's reply was instant. "What? We are here now. We're your family. What do you mean? 15 minutes? I did not reply. I put my phone back, face down. "Sorry about that," I said to my team, raising my glass. "Now, Diego, you were saying the server was on fire?" He grinned, and the dinner continued. I did not check my phone again. The Harbor Light Tower was the new Varus and Vale Regional Headquarters. It was a 30-story monument of glass and steel, with a lobby that was designed to intimidate. It was vast, cold, and smelled like expensive, sterile air. There was no comfortable seating, just granite benches and a sheer 2-story water wall. It was the least family place in the entire city. It was exactly why I chose it. I arrived at 2:59 p.m. I did not sit. I stood by the water wall, my work tote over my shoulder. At 3 p.m. on the dot, the glass revolving doors pushed them in. It was my mother, my father, and Bree. They were not dressed for a casual family chat. They were dressed for a presentation. My father was in his Sunday best, a slightly too tight navy blazer and a pressed shirt. My mother was wearing a floral dress, her hair sprayed into a rigid helmet, her good purse clutched in her hands. And Bree was wearing a cream-colored pantsuit, a boss babe outfit, her makeup for a camera, a large leather portfolio under her arm. They looked like what they were, a delegation, come to negotiate terms with a newly powerful foreign entity. They stopped a few feet from me. My mother, predictably, was the opener. Her face crumpled. The tears welled up on command. "Oh, Marin," she choked out, rushing forward to hug me. I didn't move back, but I didn't move toward her. I stood still, and she crashed against me. It was an awkward, stiff embrace. She was a bad actor. "Marin," she whispered, pulling back but clutching my arms. "We were so worried. We called and called. We thought, oh, honey, we just wanted to see you. Family is forever, Marin. You know that. Forever." "You have 15 minutes, I said, my voice quiet, but it cut through the lobby's ambient hum. My mother's tears stopped, instantly, As if a faucet had been turned off. She blinked, her face hardening. My father, Gerald, stepped forward, taking the lead. This was the business phase. "Now, Marin," he said, trying for a jovial, dad tone that didn't fit. This is a lot. This big building. We are so proud." "Gerald," I said. He flinched. I never called him by his first name. He cleared his throat. The jovial mask slipped. "Right. Okay. Your mother's right. Family is what matters. And we've hit a bit of a rough patch, and we know you'd want to help." He reached into his blazer and pulled out a standard white business envelope. He hadn't even sprung for a new one. It had a coffee ring on it. He slid it onto the granite bench between us. It was a gesture he must have seen in a movie, a clumsy imitation of a secret deal. "What is this?" I asked. "It's just some details," he said, sweating slightly under the track lighting. "The bank. They're being unreasonable about the house, the second mortgage, and your nephews. They're brilliant. Marin, just brilliant. They got into this wonderful summer STEM camp. But the tuition, it's just—" I didn't open the envelope. I knew what was inside. A list of his failures, itemized for my convenience. "And," he said, gesturing to my sister, "Bree has a wonderful idea, a way for this to help all of us." Bree stepped forward, the professional. She placed her leather portfolio on the bench and unzipped it. She pulled out a few glossy, printed-out pages. It was a pitch deck. She had actually made a pitch deck. "Marin," she said, her voice dropping into the same smooth, persuasive tone she used for her live streams. "This is a synergistic opportunity, a true brand collaboration." She held up the first page. It was a picture of her, next to a picture of me she'd pulled from the Lumen Path website. "The Doyle Sisters Collection," she said. "We create a capsule collection for my boutique. You're the brain. I'm the brand. We leverage your new public profile, a line of smart casual wear. We can call it Lumen or Pathfinder. It's authentic. It's storytelling." I just stared at her. She was pitching me my own name. "It's a way to show the world that you remember where you came from," she finished, her eyes gleaming with the brilliance of her own idea. "And a portion of the proceeds, of course, would go to a new LLC, which we can use to manage the family's assets." Silence. I looked at the three of them. The emotional plea, the debt portfolio, the synergistic brand collaboration. They had all the bases covered. I let the silence sit for a full 30 seconds. They started to fidget. "I have a question," I said. They all leaned in, expectant. "Who called me on my birthday last year?" Their faces froze. It was a simple, factual question. My father looked at the floor. My mother's face went blank, her mind rapidly scanning a calendar she had never bothered to memorize. Bree just stared, her boss babe mask cracking. "It was in May, right?" my mother said, her voice high and unsure. "Oh, we're all just so busy, with the kids and Bree's business. It must have just slipped by." "We're all busy," I agreed, my voice still perfectly level. My father, trying to be helpful, trying to fill the awful silence, made his fatal mistake. He chuckled, a dry, nervous sound. "It's a good thing that press release went out. June. We were so worried. We'd never have known where to find you to congratulate you if the papers hadn't posted it." I just looked at him. He had said it, the quiet part. We'd never have known where to find you, because they had never looked. Not until there was a number attached to my name. And then, the finale. Bree, flustered by my question, by my silence, fumbled with her phone. She was trying to pull up a calculator, or maybe more brand ideas. She swiped too fast, and the phone slipped from her hand. It didn't fall to the floor. It clattered onto her open portfolio, screen up, right under my eyes. It was her email app, open to a draft. And the subject line was, "Subject Equity Gift?" She had come here with her synergy pitch, but she had an email already drafted, asking for a gift of stock. She wasn't here to collaborate. She was here to collect. She snatched the phone back, her face burning crimson, but I had seen it. I turned back to my father. I picked up the white envelope from the bench. I didn't open it. I held it out to him. "If this is a pitch," I said, "it's a bad one." He looked confused, and then angry. "I don't need a deck to see your numbers," I continued, my voice cold. "I know your debt. I know the boutique's cash flow. I know the tuition for that camp." Bree looked like I had slapped her. "So, if this is a business proposition, I decline. The data doesn't support the investment. The founders are untrustworthy, and the brand synergy is toxic." "Marin!" my mother shrieked, the tears coming back, real this time. "How can you be so cruel? We're your family. Why are you talking like this? Like a stranger?" I looked at her. I finally truly looked at her. "Because I am a person, Mom," I said. "I am not a bank. I am not an equity gift. And I am not your brand collaboration. I am a person." I zipped my tote bag. "This meeting is over." I turned and walked toward the glass doors. I checked my watch. 9 minutes and 40 seconds. I was well within my allotted time. "Marin," my father yelled, his voice echoing in the massive lobby. "Don't you walk away from us. We're your family." I didn't stop. I pushed through the revolving door and stepped out into the bright, cold afternoon. As I walked down the street, my phone in my pocket, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clear. I made a mental note, a new kind of due diligence. Item, family pitch. Participants, Gerald, Elaine, Bree, ask, full financial bailout, brand synergy. Tactic, emotional manipulation, guilt, underlying motive, greed. Result, denied. I did not need to react. I just needed to record. The paper trail was everything, and they had just handed me the first page. The walking away part was easy. The dealing with the consequences was harder. I was in an integration sync meeting with Varys and Vale, sitting in a glass-walled conference room that was probably worth more than my first apartment. When my phone buzzed with an email, I kept my attention on the presenter, but the subject line on my watch was impossible to ignore. It was from an automated address at Fidelity Mortgage Services, a bank I had never used. The subject, action required, confirmation of co-guarantor status. My focus shattered. I kept my face a perfect, neutral mask, but my blood felt like it had been replaced with ice water. I waited for the presenter to finish his slide, nodded, and said, "Excuse me for one moment. I need to take this." I stepped into the hallway, my heels clicking on the marble, and opened the email. "Dear Marin Doyle, we are pleased to confirm your addition as a co-guarantor on the refinanced mortgage loan for the property at 412 Oakside Drive, Oakfield, Ohio." It was my parents' address. The lobby meeting hadn't been a pitch. It had been the preamble to a pitch. This was the follow-through. My father hadn't just asked for the money in that envelope. He had already started the paperwork to take it. I didn't call my father. I didn't call my mother. My hands were perfectly steady. I was not a daughter. I was a CEO handling a critical security breach. I went to a quiet alcove and called the bank's main number. I navigated the automated menu. I got a representative. "Hello," I said, my voice calm and low. "I am calling about a loan associated with my name. I am looking at an email confirming me as a co-guarantor. This is a fraudulent action. I need to speak to your fraud department, immediately." I spent the next hour on the phone. I was escalated twice, finally landing with a senior VP in loss prevention. He was apologetic, alarmed. "Ma'am, this is very serious. The request we received had all your personal identifying information." "I'm aware," I said. "Where did the request originate? How was it submitted?" There was a pause, the clicking of keys. "It appears the supplemental documentation was submitted via a fax transmission 3 days ago at, 2:14 p.m. "What was the originating fax number?" He read the 10-digit number. I knew it. I had memorized it. It was the number for the Hewlett-Packard all-in-one printer and fax machine sitting in my parents' cluttered home office, the one I had bought for them 5 Christmases ago so Bree could print her shipping labels. "Thank you," I said. "You have confirmed the fraud. I expect a full reversal of this action within the hour, and a letter confirming I am in no way associated with this loan. You will place a permanent block on my Social Security number from all future applications. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am," he said, his voice shaky. He wasn't used to this. I hung up. My next call was to Ava Roth, the lawyer who had closed my acquisition. "Ava," I said, striding back toward the conference room, "we have a new problem. It's not corporate, it's domestic, and it's wire fraud." I explained. I didn't editorialize. I just gave her the facts. The email, the bank, the confirmation, the fax number. Ava was silent on the other end, but I could hear her typing. She wasn't a family therapist. She was a litigator. "Good," she said, her voice crisp. "You didn't call them. That's the first smart move. You did not engage. You reported. That's perfect. What's the protocol now?" "Now you are a documentarian," she said. "That archive of voicemails you told me about? It's no longer a curiosity. It's evidence. I want you to log every call, every text, every email. Do not delete anything. Second, I am handling the bank. I will send them a letter that will make their general counsel's hair curl. Third, I'm going to find out who their mortgage broker is." It took her team less than 2 hours. Ava was lethally efficient. "Okay," she said, calling me back. "The mortgage broker is a local guy in Oakfield. My associate called him, posing as a third-party auditor for the bank. The broker was chatty. I am quoting from my associate's notes. Oh, yeah. The Doyle loan? That's a great one. The daughter hit it big. Gerald said she was thrilled to help out. Just swamped with her new company. So he was signing the preliminary docs for her to expedite." The floor felt soft beneath my feet. This wasn't a moment of desperation. This wasn't a mistake. This was a story. A performance. My father had built a narrative around my success, casting himself as the humble father and me as the thrilled benefactor who was just too busy to sign her own name. He had forged my signature. He had committed a federal crime. "So," I said, my voice very quiet. "He was performing." "He was," Ava agreed. "And now, we provide the counter move. We send a cease and desist letter, certified mail, to your parents' address, and a separate one to the broker, identifying the action as fraudulent. And we are locking down your credit right now." As if on cue, my phone, which had been quiet, lit up with a text message. It was from Bree. "Bree, Mom said you got some weird bank letter? Seriously. Marin, you're going to make a federal case out of a typo? It's just paperwork. Dad was just trying to get things organized. You're really overreacting." Overreacting. The word bounced around in my skull. I was overreacting to identity theft. It was just a typo. The next wave hit an hour later. A relative, my mother's second cousin, a woman I hadn't seen in a decade, posted on Facebook. I didn't see it myself. Priya did. She sent me a screenshot with no comment, which was comment enough. The post was a masterpiece of passive-aggressive martyrdom. It's so sad when some people get a little money and forget the ones who raised them and sacrificed for them. A little paperwork shouldn't be a reason to attack your own father, who is just trying to keep a roof over their head. Some people are just rich and cheap. The comments below it were a predictable chorus of amens and praying for you. I was the villain. The one who was being stolen from, was rich and cheap. My phone rang. It was not a number I recognized. I let it go to voicemail. It was Claudine Pierce's executive assistant. My stomach tightened. I called back instantly. "Marin," the assistant said, her voice polite and smooth. "Claudine was hoping to have a word. There's a rumor circulating that there's some family dispute becoming public. She just wants to ensure everything is stable on your end. The acquisition optics are, as you know, very sensitive during the integration phase." They were worried. They were worried their new $120 million asset was unstable, that she was in a messy public feud that could damage the brand. I disconnected and called Ava immediately. "Varys and Vale is nervous," I said. "The Facebook post?" "I'll handle it," Ava said. She was a firewall. Within an hour, she had drafted a statement for Varys and Vale's internal PR team to keep on file. It was a beautiful piece of non-information. Ms. Doyle is in the process of securing her personal and financial identity in the wake of her recent, significant success. This is a private, administrative matter and has no bearing on her professional duties or the integration of LumenPath. It was corporate, it was boring, and it worked. It satisfied them. The cease and desist letter, sent via overnight courier, must have arrived in Oakfield by the next morning. My father called. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. Voicemail. He called a third time, and I answered. I said nothing. "Marin?" His voice was small, reedy, confused. "Marin, I got this letter, from a law firm. Marin, this is a terrible misunderstanding. You have to call them off. They're talking about fraud." "Was it a misunderstanding when you spoke to the broker, Gerald?" Silence. "He said I was thrilled to help. Was that a misunderstanding?" I just signed the paper. Marin," he stammered. I didn't think the bank would actually do it. Not that fast. I was setting it up, so that when we talked, it would be all ready to go." The chill in my veins intensified. He wasn't sorry he did it. He was sorry he got caught. He was sorry the system worked faster than his narrative. "You used my name," I said, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. "You forged my signature on a federal loan document. You know that's a crime." I heard a sharp intake of breath. The word crime had landed. He hadn't thought of it that way. It was just family. "I have to go," I said, and I hung up the phone. I sat with Ava in her office that afternoon. "What's the endgame?" she asked, hands steepled. "Do you want him prosecuted? Because we're there. We have the proof." I thought about it, the headlines, the trial, my mother collapsing in a courtroom, Bree giving tearful interviews to the local news about her broken family, painting herself as the peacemaker. "No," I said. "I don't want a circus. I want it to stop." "Then we offer a settlement," Ava said. "A family reconciliation agreement. It's not a standard legal document, but it's binding as hell. They sign it. We don't proceed with criminal charges." The terms were simple. 1. A formal, written apology, drafted by Ava, admitting to the fraudulent application and the motive. 2. A legally binding and notarized commitment to never again access, use, or inquire about my finances, my credit, my social security number, or my identity for any purpose. I added a third term. I went online. I found a free, 3-hour online course offered by the Oakfield Community College. It was called Financial Ethics and Identity Management for Modern Families. "Send them the link," I told Ava. "They have to complete it and send us the certificate. It's their face-saving way out. They can tell people they took a class instead of were forced to stop committing crimes." Ava smiled. "That's brutal. I love it." The offer was sent. My mother's reaction was explosive. She called me, screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "How dare you? After everything we did for you, you would treat your father like a common criminal? You would send him to school? He is your father. Why are you doing this? Why are you making this such a big deal over nothing?" "He committed fraud, Mom." "He was trying to save our house," she shrieked. "Something you clearly don't care about." "He used my name to do it, and my money to pay for it," I said. "The offer stands. Have Ava's office confirm your decision." I hung up. Silence. For 3 full days. Nothing. No calls, no texts, no angry Facebook posts. The silence was heavy, oppressive. They were deciding. Were they going to apologize, or were they going to double down? On Wednesday night, I came home late from an integration dinner with the Veras and Vale engineering leads. I was exhausted, my brain fried from talking about data migration. I got in the elevator, rode up to my floor. The hallway was quiet. As I stepped out, my foot nearly hit something on the floor in front of my door. It was a plain white envelope. No stamp, no name. It had been slipped under the door. My blood, which had been so cold, now felt hot. This was not a reconciliation. I picked it up. It was thin. My fingers were numb as I tore it open. Inside was a single piece of paper, folded in thirds. It was a photocopy. It was a pre-filled application for a Platinum Premier credit card, a high-limit, high-reward card. In my name, my apartment address, my social security number, my correct 9-digit social security number. And at the bottom, in the signature box, was a crude, clumsy, almost childish forgery of my name. The M was too loopy. The D was too sharp. This wasn't the loan. This was new. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't just paperwork. It was a threat. It was an escalation. It was a message. We have your information. We are not stopping. I stood in my apartment hallway, the single piece of paper cold in my hand, the application, the signature. It was a clumsy, desperate forgery, an imitation of my name. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a threat. It was a message that they would not stop, that they would pull me down with them, that my name was just another asset for them to leverage until it broke. I closed my eyes. I had tried to de-escalate with the lawyer's letter. I had offered them a way out, a path to reconciliation. They had rejected it and, in return, slipped a felony under my door. The time for negotiation was over. The next morning, I was not at my Veras and Vale integration meeting. I was at Ava Roth's office at 8 a.m. I placed the credit card application on her desk. She looked at it. Her face, usually so composed, tightened with a flash of anger. "This," she said, "is no longer harassment. This is a pattern of attempted fraud." "It's the end," I said. My voice was quiet. "I'm done. I'm not prosecuting. I'm not negotiating. I am ending it. I want to build a fortress." "Good," she said, her voice turning to steel. "Fortresses are my specialty." We spent the entire day with Ava, 2 estate lawyers, and a team of financial managers. The money from the acquisition was, by design, already in a complex holding account, but it was still, technically, my liquid managed asset. By 5 p.m., it was gone. We had created the LumenPath Legacy Trust. It was an irrevocable trust, a distinct legal entity. The vast majority of the $120 million was transferred into it. I was the administrator, but I was not the beneficiary. The trust's mandate, locked in ironclad legal language, was to fund rural healthcare initiatives and provide STEM scholarships for underprivileged students. I could not access the principal for personal use. I could not be sued for it. It could not be attached to any debt, present or future. What did I keep? I kept my salary. As a Veras and Vale executive, it was a very good salary. It was more than enough to live on. But it was just that, a salary. I had, in one 6-hour session, made myself a very difficult person to steal from. I had, in effect, given the money away to the mission, locking it in a vault even I couldn't open. "You are no longer a 9-figure target," Ava said, signing the last document. "You're just a woman with a good job." "That's all I ever wanted to be," I said. "Now for the block list." I sent a formal internal email to Ava and the financial managers. It contained 3 names: Gerald Doyle, Elaine Doyle, Bree Doyle. "The following individuals," I wrote, "are to be permanently blocked from any and all transactions, trusts, or entities bearing my name. They are not to be listed as beneficiaries, present or contingent, now or in perpetuity." The fortress walls were up. The treasury was secure. That night, I handled the public relations front. I made 3 short video calls. The first was to my mother's cousin, The one who had posted the rich and cheap comment on Facebook. Her face appeared on my screen, a mixture of surprise and greedy anticipation. "Marin, honey, I am calling to inform you," I said, my voice perfectly level, "that your public comments were regarding an active legal matter involving attempted identity theft and wire fraud. I am building a file of all harassment, public or private. If you post about me, my finances, or my family again, in any capacity, your name will be added to that file, and you will receive a formal cease and desist from my attorney. This is your only warning." Her face went pale. I did not wait for her to speak. I disconnected the call. I did the same for the other 2 relatives who had been most vocal. 3 calls, 3 stunned, silent faces. The whispering campaign was over. Finally, I went home. I sat at my desk. I did not open my laptop. I took out a single sheet of my best, heavy-stock personal stationery. I took out a pen, and I wrote a letter. It was not an angry letter. It was not emotional. It was a letter of facts. It was 2 pages long, front and back, every line filled with neat, clear script. "Dear Mom and Dad," it began. I wrote about my 18th birthday and how it was canceled for Bree's wedding shower. I wrote about my college graduation and my father leaving early to take Bree to an interview. I wrote about the 1.2 million seed round and my mother's only reply being a request to babysit. I wrote about the Saturday lunch and how no one looked up when I announced the Seam Meridian trial. I wrote about the folding chairs text. I did not use words like "you hurt me" or "I was sad." I used phrases like "the record shows," and "the result of this was," and "this pattern of neglect was consistent." It was a calm, meticulous, and devastating accounting of my own life, written like a financial ledger. On the second page, I detailed the events of the past few weeks: the 47 voicemails, the synergy pitch in the lobby, the fraudulent mortgage fax, and finally, the forged credit card application. I ended the letter with a new offer. The old one was void. "I will not be prosecuting you for the fraudulent applications," I wrote. "But our relationship, as it existed, is over." It was not a relationship. It was an arrangement where I was expected to perform as a utility, and you were entitled to take what you needed. If you ever wish to build a new relationship with me, one based on mutual respect, these are the non-negotiable conditions. 1. A specific, written apology acknowledging the financial fraud. "I'm sorry" is not a foundation. "I'm sorry I used your social security number to apply for a loan" is. 2. Full repayment of all small, outstanding debts from the last 10 years. I have enclosed an itemized list. The total is $1,140. This is not about the money. It is about acknowledging the one-way flow of resources. 3. A notarized, written commitment, identical to the one in Ava's original offer, never to access, use, or inquire about my finances again. Until these 3 conditions are met, you will not call, text, or email me. You will not visit my home or my office. This is the last time you will hear from me until you have decided. I signed it. Marin Doyle. I sent it via certified mail, with a return receipt requested. The receipt came back 2 days later. Signed. The first response came from Bree, a single text message. "You are being so dramatic. This is insane." I read the text. I deleted it. I went into her contact file and I blocked her number. The second response came from my mother. It was not a text. It was a picture message, a photo of my 2 nephews, their faces bright, laughing in the sunshine. The text beneath it read, "They are just children. How can you be so cold to your family? They miss you." It was the emotional checkmate, the final, desperate move, using children as shields. I looked at the photo. They were beautiful. They were innocent. And they were trapped in the same system I had just escaped. I typed a reply, my only reply. "They are beautiful. Their adults need to take responsibility for their own actions." I sent it, then I blocked her number. And my father's. The fortress was sealed. I felt quiet. I went to the office. Priya saw me by the coffee machine. I must have looked like a ghost. "Marin," she said, her voice soft. "How are you?" "I just blocked my entire family," I said. The words sounded alien. She didn't flinch. She just put her hand on my arm. "A boundary isn't a wall to punish people, Marin," she said quietly. "It's a door, and you just put a lock on it. You're the only one with the key. You get to decide who comes in." I nodded. I needed to get away from the door. That night, I booked a flight. Not to Ohio, not to a beach. I flew to Seattle, rented a car, and drove 3 hours east into the Cascade Mountains, to a place called Tremont Ridge. I had rented a small, one-room cabin on a cliffside. The listing's primary feature: no cell signal, no Wi-Fi. It was the truth. My phone, my connection to Varus and Vale, to my lawyers, to the world, was a useless brick of glass. For 3 days, I did nothing. I sat on a small wooden deck and watched eagles ride the updrafts. I was surrounded by pine trees so old and tall they seemed to hold up the sky. I breathed air that tasted like cold water and pine needles, not recycled air and stale coffee. On the second day, I opened my laptop. I wasn't connected to the internet. I just opened a text file. I didn't want to think about my family. I wanted to think about my work, the real work, the why. I started to write. I wrote about the St. Meridian trial. I wrote about the left without being seen metric. I wrote about the unspoken assumption in healthcare that a patient's time is worthless, that their dignity is the first thing to be sacrificed on the altar of inefficiency. I titled the article, "Time as a Unit of Care: How Reducing Wait Times Restores Patient Dignity." It was the thesis for LumenPath. It was the reason I had built the company. It was my purpose, clarified by the silence. When I drove back down the mountain, my phone reconnected to the network. It exploded, a flood of notifications. But they weren't from Ohio. Before I left, I had sent the article to a major medical journal's online forum. It had been published while I was gone, and it had, in the small, insular world of healthcare technology, gone viral. My inbox was a waterfall of emails, not from Bree, from doctors at Mass General, from rural clinic administrators in Texas, from nurses in London, all saying the same thing. You get it. This is what we've been trying to say for 20 years. My work was speaking for me, louder than my family's lies ever could. I scrolled through the messages, a small, genuine smile on my face, and then I saw it, a single, new voicemail notification. It had bypassed my blocks. It must have come from a number I didn't have saved. My father. My finger hovered over the delete button. The fortress was sealed. I didn't need this. But I remembered Priya's words, a door with a lock. I hit play. His voice was not the angry, blustering voice from my mother's phone. It was not the slippery, performative voice from the broker's office. It was a voice I had not heard since I was a child. It was small, it was tired, and it was sober. "Marin," he said. A long pause. I heard him take a shaky breath. I read your article. Your mother's cousin. Eileen, the one who's a nurse. She sent it to us." Another pause. "She said it was brilliant, and she was right." He was quiet for a long time. I could hear the television in the background, but the volume was low. "It was, Marin, it really was. I didn't understand. What you were building, I saw the number, but I read the words." His voice cracked, just a little. I'm proud. I'm genuinely proud of you." The line clicked. He had hung up. I stood by my rental car, the mountain air cold on my face. I did not cry. I did not feel a sudden, cinematic rush of forgiveness. The fortress walls were still standing. The conditions were still unmet. The lock was still in place. But it was something. It was a knock, a real one. I saved the voicemail. I moved it to the archive, but in a separate folder. I opened my text messages. I typed one line. "To Dad. Thank you." I hit send. Then I powered the phone off completely, got back in the car, and drove back to the cabin for one more night, surrounded by the quiet, towering trees. The voicemail from my father was a fissure in the ice. It was a single, genuine crack in a fortress I had built to be impenetrable. For 2 weeks, I did nothing. I didn't call him back. I didn't unblock my mother or Bree. I simply worked. The integration with Varys and Vale was all-consuming. I let the silence on the family front hold. I let his words, "I'm proud," echo in that new, quiet space. Then the email arrived. It was from a new address, one I hadn't blocked, breedoylecreates@gmail.com. The subject line was 3 words, "I need to apologize." My fingers hesitated over the delete key. I opened it. The text was short. "Marin, I've been a monster. I know it. What Dad did was wrong. What I did was worse. I've been jealous and petty and awful. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want to apologize in person. Please, just 1 cup of coffee. No parents. Just us. I miss my sister. I miss my sister." The words bypassed every firewall. They were a direct hit on the one part of me that wasn't covered in scar tissue, the part that remembered building pillow forts and whispering secrets in the dark. I forwarded the email to Ava. Her reply was instant. "It's a trap." "I know," I replied. "But what if it isn't? If I don't go, I'll always wonder. But I'm not going stupid." I agreed to the meeting. I set the terms. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., in the main atrium cafe of the Rookhaven Public Library. Public, neutral, bright. She agreed instantly. I arrived at 2 p.m. The library was a cathedral of quiet, smelling of old paper and floor wax. I chose a small table in the open, with a clear view of the entrance. As promised, Ava was 40 feet away, sitting in the periodicals section, her back to me, pretending to read a copy of The Economist. She was my tactical support. Bree walked in at 2:02. She looked wrong. She wasn't the boss babe from the lobby. She wasn't the screaming, frantic woman from the phone. She was wearing old jeans and a gray sweater. Her hair was in a simple ponytail. She had almost no makeup on. She looked like my sister. She sat down, and her eyes immediately filled with tears. These were not the on-demand tears from the lobby. Her hands were visibly shaking. "Marin," she whispered, her voice thick. "Thank you for coming. I... She couldn't speak. She put her face in her hands, and her shoulders began to shake. "I am so sorry," she choked out. "When I got your letter, the one you sent with the conditions, I read it, and I remembered. Your birthday, your graduation. God, Marin, I was horrible. We were all horrible." She looked up, her face blotchy and wet. We looked right through you. I was so jealous of how smart you were, of how you could just leave and build something, and when the money happened, I saw it as a fix, a way to solve my problems. I never even thought about you. This was it. This was the apology. It was specific. It was raw. It was everything I had put on my list. I felt the ice around my heart crack. The fortress, the walls. They were built for an enemy. But the person in front of me was my sister. "Bree," I said, my voice softer than I intended. I just want to make it right," she said, wiping her nose on her sleeve. She reached into her bag. I know this isn't exactly what you asked for, but I brought something, a way for us to start over, a real way, for all of us." My stomach tightened. The soft feeling vanished, replaced by a sudden, cold dread. She pulled out a thick, bound document. It wasn't a pitch. It was a legal contract, heavy and official. She slid it across the table. The cover read, "The Doyle Family Community and Brand Partnership Agreement." "I had my lawyer draft it," she said, her voice regaining a fraction of its smooth, persuasive tone. The tears were drying up with suspicious speed. "I've been talking to Mom and Dad. They feel terrible. This whole thing, the lawyers, the letters, it's tearing the family apart. This is a way to fix it. It's a community initiative. We can leverage the family brand for good. It outlines a plan for a community foundation. We all contribute. We're all on the board. It protects everyone. I stared at her. Leverage the brand. Yes, it's a way to spin this. We can use it to fund the STEM scholarships you wanted. It formalizes everything. My phone vibrated in my lap. I didn't look at it. I opened the document. It was 60 pages of dense legalese. I skipped the preamble, the pages of sentimental nonsense about family values and community healing. I went straight to the appendices. Appendix A. Governance. I saw her name, my mother's, my father's. Appendix B. Brand asset management. I scanned the paragraph. My eyes locked on the text. Grants full, irrevocable, and perpetual access to Marin Doyle's name, image, likeness, and personal signature for the purposes of promotion, fundraising, and associated brand activities. This was not an apology. This was a corporate coup. This was a Trojan horse, wheeled into my library, filled with soldiers. She was trying to trick me into signing over the very things my father had already been arrested for trying to steal. My name, my signature. My phone vibrated again, more insistently. I glanced down. A text from Ava. One word. Don't. I looked up. Bree was smiling. A hopeful, bright, false smile. She had a pen, an expensive one. She clicked it and pushed it toward me. We can sign it, Marin, she said, her voice a sweet coo. We can end all this, right now. We can be a family again. I looked at the pen. I looked at her. I slowly pushed the thick, fraudulent document back toward her. And then, I smiled. You're right, Bree, I said. This isn't working. Let's trade roles. Her smile faltered. What do you mean? This, I said, tapping the contract, is your pitch. It's very thorough. You've clearly put a lot of work into it. Now, it's my turn. I reached into my own bag, the one she had ignored. I pulled out a small, black USB drive. It was labeled Evidence, Doyle Mortgage V1. I placed it on the table between us. It was tiny. It looked like nothing. Bree stared at it. What is that? A flash drive? It's a recording, I said, my voice light, almost conversational. It's a phone call between my lawyer's private investigator and your mortgage broker in Oakfield, Mr. Henderson. He was incredibly chatty. He was happy to confirm, on tape, that Mr. Gerald Doyle said his daughter, Marin, was thrilled to help, and had given him permission to sign for her to expedite. It's a very clean, very clear, 5-minute recording of a conspiracy to commit wire fraud. I didn't threaten her. I just let the words hang in the quiet library air. Bree's face went from pale to red to a sickly, blotchy white. She looked like she couldn't breathe. You wouldn't, she whispered. I don't want to, I said. I truly don't, which is why I brought my own agreement. I reached back into my bag and pulled out a single sheet of paper. It was the document I had drafted with Ava. At the top, in simple, bold letters, it read, The Family Repair Plan. I placed it on the table next to the USB drive. It's very simple, I said. It's not 60 pages, it's one, and it has 3 points. 1. You, Mom, and Dad will write and sign a formal letter of apology, not for being busy, for the specific, fraudulent acts, the mortgage, the credit card. 2. You will repay the $1,140 in small debts, as outlined in my original letter. The principal matters. 3. You will all sign a legally binding, notarized document, permanently locking you out from my personal and financial identity. I slid the paper closer to her. You all sign this one, simple page, and in exchange, that USB drive, and all its copies, go into a vault. I don't pursue criminal charges. We all walk away, clean. Bree stared at the paper. She looked at the USB drive. She looked at me, and her face, the fear. It melted away, replaced by a pure, hot rage I had not seen since we were children. You dare, she hissed, her voice low and shaking. A man at the next table looked up. You sit here, and you dare try to make me the bad guy? I'm not making you anything. Bree, I said, my voice still calm. No one made my father forge my name, and no one made you try to trick me with a fake foundation. You're the one who signed those fraudulent applications. What is going on here? A new voice, my mother, Elaine. She was marching toward our table, my father trailing behind her, his face pale and anxious. They hadn't been not invited. They were the reinforcements. This was a coordinated, 3-person ambush. She's blackmailing us, Bree shrieked, standing up so fast her chair screeched on the tile floor, causing the entire atrium to look. She's trying to make Dad a criminal. My mother rounded on me, her face purple. You, how could you? After your father's heartfelt voicemail, after everything, you are trying to humiliate this family. You are a monster. The librarian was walking over. Ma'am, you need to lower your voice. I will not, my mother screamed. That's enough. The voice was cool, calm, and cut through the hysteria like a scalpel. Ava Roth stepped up to the table, placing her briefcase down with a soft, expensive thud. She looked at my mother. She looked at Bree. She looked at my father. Hello, she said, pulling a business card from her suit jacket. My name is Ava Roth. I'm Ms. Doyle's legal counsel. She handed the card to my mother. My mother looked at it like it was a spider. I'm here, Ava continued, her voice perfectly modulated, to ensure that this mediation is fair and that my client is not intimidated or coerced. And I must say, she glanced at the thick, bound contract on the table. This is a fascinating and deeply fraudulent attempt at contract manipulation. Well done. Bree looked like she was going to faint. My mother was, for the first time in her life, completely speechless. All eyes turned to my father. He hadn't said a word. He just stood there, his shoulders slumped, looking from the USB drive to the 1-page family repair plan I had placed on the table. He looked at me. His eyes were not angry. They were just empty, defeated. He knew. He knew he was caught, and he knew my 1-page offer was his only way out. He reached out a trembling hand. He picked up my simple 1-page plan. Elaine, he said, his voice a gravelly whisper. Stop. Just stop. He looked at me. I'll sign it. The repair plan. I'll sign it. Dad, no, Bree screamed. She lunged, not at me, at the paper. She snatched the family repair plan from my father's hand. She tore it in half, then in quarters. I will never apologize, she yelled, throwing the pieces of my offer onto the floor. I will never sign that. She grabbed her bag, shoved my mother out of the way, and stormed out of the library, the glass doors swinging violently in her wake. My mother stood there, horrified, staring at the scraps of paper on the floor. She looked at me. She looked at Ava. And then, without a word, she turned and hurried after her favorite daughter. My father remained. He looked at the torn pieces of his surrender. I'm sorry, he mumbled. To me, or to the floor. I couldn't tell. And then he, too, turned and walked away. It was silent. The librarian was frozen. Ava just sighed. She bent down, her knees cracking slightly, and picked up the torn pieces of my plan. Well, she said, smoothing them out on the table. That's a no, I take it. She looked at me, her expression unreadable. Get ready, Marin, she said quietly, slipping the torn paper into her briefcase. She didn't just reject your offer. She declared war. She won't accept a loss. Ava's prediction wasn't a warning. It was a weather forecast. The storm broke less than 24 hours after the library disaster. Bree didn't just walk out of that library. She walked straight to a keyboard. She didn't go to the Wall Street Journal. She was smarter and crueler than that. She went local. A blog called Rookhaven Confidential, a slimy local gossip site that specialized in restaurant health code violations and rumors of affairs, suddenly had a new headline. I got the link from Priya, with the simple text, "Brace yourself." The headline was, "Blood Money. Brookhaven's new tech mogul abandons ailing family. Sources say." It was a masterpiece of implication. It was all anonymous sources, and a friend close to the family. It painted a devastating picture. An elderly, ailing couple, my parents, who are both in their late 50s and play golf, on the verge of losing their home. A devoted, struggling older sister, Bree, with her boutique, who had sacrificed everything to care for them. And me, the cold, ungrateful, Silicon Valley corrupted daughter who, upon hitting a $120 million jackpot, had not only refused to help, but had hired lawyers to threaten her own father. It detailed the scene at the library, twisting it into a horror show. I wasn't ambushed. I had lured my family into a trap. Bree's tearful rage was painted as a desperate plea for compassion. My one-page repair plan was described as a cruel, humiliating document. I tried to force on my grieving father. By noon, it was the only thing being talked about in the Brookhaven business community. The comments section was a sewer. Typical new money trash. "I heard she was cold. This proves it." Disgusting. Her family probably paid for her to get started, and now she cuts them off. The real call, the one that mattered, came at 3 p.m. It was Claudine Pierce, not her assistant. Her voice was not warm. It was the temperature of deep space. "Marin," she said, "I am looking at a gossip blog. Varys and Vale did not invest $120 million to be associated with a petty public family feud. This is a distraction. You are a Varys and Vale executive now. This brand, our brand, does not engage in this kind of noise. Fix it, or I will." The line clicked. It was not a request. I called Ava. "She's rattled." "Good," Ava said. "She's not rattled. She's protecting her asset, and so are we. It's time for your statement. She went public. We go public, but we do it with dignity." We had already drafted it. It was 87 words long. I didn't send it to Brookhaven Confidential. I posted it on my professional LinkedIn profile, the only social media I maintained. I am, and have always been, a private person. The statement read, "The recent public success of LumenPath has unfortunately attracted unwarranted attention. In the wake of this, there have been coordinated, fraudulent attempts to gain access to my personal and financial identity. I have been forced to take all necessary legal and security steps to protect my identity and my assets. This is a private, administrative matter. I will not be commenting further." I hit post. Then, Varys and Vale's corporate communications team released their own statement, one I'm sure Ava helped them draft. Varys and Vale has full confidence in Marin Doyle's leadership. We are excited to focus on the real work ahead, integrating LumenPath's life-saving technology to serve our patients. Our mission, and Miss Doyle's, is on that singular goal. It was beautiful. I had defined the narrative. Fraud. Legal steps. Varys and Vale had reinforced it. Mission. Focus. The public narrative, which had been a tidal wave of outrage, paused. Fraud? Financial identity? Bree felt the tide turning. She was losing control. So she did what she always does. She doubled down. She panicked. She sent the smoking gun, anonymously, of course, to the same gossip blog. Brookhaven Confidential posted it immediately, with a triumphant, "The proof. See the document the ungrateful CEO refused to sign." It was a photocopy of the mortgage application, the one my father had faxed. And it was the single stupidest, most self-destructive mistake she could have possibly made. The blogger, in their haste, posted the entire page, and at the bottom, grainy but unmistakable, was the signature, the one I had seen on the credit card application, the clumsy, childish, obviously fraudulent forgery of my name. The comments section went silent. And then, it erupted. The first new comment was, "Wait, am I reading this wrong? That's not her signature. That's a forgery." Another followed. Her statement said, "Fraudulent attempts. This is the fraud." Her father tried to steal her identity and she refused. Another, "Let me get this straight. Her family tries to forge her name on a mortgage. She says no, and she's the villain? What the hell?" The entire narrative collapsed on itself in less than an hour. The blogger, realizing their catastrophic error, pulled the post down. But it was too late. Screenshots were everywhere. The story wasn't ungrateful daughter anymore. It was CEO victim of clumsy family fraud. Bree, in a full-blown panic, tried to do damage control on her own Instagram. She posted a long, rambling story. "You don't understand. It was just paperwork," she wrote over a picture of our old family dog. "She's twisting everything." She then posted a screenshot of her community partnership agreement, the 60-page document from the library. She refused this, a chance to heal. The internet, now fully engaged, fact-checked her into oblivion. Her community partnership was torn apart. She tried to trick her sister into signing over her name, image, and likeness. Someone posted, "That's not healing, that's a grift." My phone, which I had unblocked, lit up with a text. It was from a new number. But I knew it was my mother. "Bree went too far. This is not what we wanted. This is a mess. You need to make her stop." I read the text, the classic "it's a mess," and "you need to fix it," the classic passive voice. I replied, "I'm not the one doing it. You can stop this. Tell her to stop." Silence. She wouldn't. She couldn't control Bree. She never could. The next day, a FedEx envelope arrived at my office. Not my apartment. My office. My father knew the new protocol. Inside, there was no contract, no request. Just a single sheet of lined notebook paper, torn from a spiral. It was his handwriting. "Marin," it began. "I am so sorry. Your mother and I, we were scared. The bank, the second mortgage. I was afraid of losing the house. I felt like a failure for a long time. When I saw your name, that number, in the paper. I didn't see you. I saw a shortcut, a way to fix my own mistakes. I used your success. I used your name. It was wrong. I was just trying to get the paperwork ready. That's what I told myself. But it was a lie. I was trying to trap you. I am sorry for the signature." Bree won't listen. She never has. She is not in a good place. This isn't about the family. It's just about her. I see that now. Your mother. She's just caught in the middle. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted to tell you the truth. I am proud of you. I was proud when I read your article. I was just too ashamed to say it right. Dad. I read the letter twice. It was the first honest communication he had ever sent me. It was not a performance. It was a confession. I am sorry for the signature, the specific act. I texted him, "Dad, thank you for the truth. I am willing to meet. Just you. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., the coffee shop on Elm." He was already there when I arrived, sitting in a booth in the back, nursing a cup of black coffee. He looked smaller, the bluster, the baseball watching, armchair quarterback energy was gone. He just looked old. I sat down. I ordered a coffee. We didn't do the emotional preamble. There were no tears, just short, honest sentences. "I didn't know how to be a father to you," he said, staring into his cup. "Bree, she was easy, she needed, she cried, she demanded, she was loud. You never needed anything. You were just capable. It was easy to look away. It was easy to let you handle it. So you just forgot?" "No," he said, and he finally looked at me. His eyes were red. "I didn't forget. I just let myself off the hook. Every time. It was easier. And when your money came, it was just another thing you were capable of handling us, of fixing it." He told me about the debt, not just the house, the credit cards, the bad investments Bree had convinced him to make in her boutique. He was drowning. He saw me as a life raft he was entitled to. I listened. I didn't interrupt. I didn't offer to fix it. I didn't heal him. I just, for the first time in my life, listened to him tell the truth. When he was finished, the silence was heavy, but clean. I reached into my bag. I pulled out a single sheet of paper. The family repair plan, modified. It had 2 clauses. The first was the non-interference commitment, legally binding, never to touch my identity again. The second was a new line item. I slid it to him. "You sign this," I said, "and you do this." I slid another paper across the table. It was the printout for the Financial Ethics and Identity Management class. "I'm not paying your debt, Dad," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "That is your hole. You have to climb out, but you have to stop digging. This is your shovel. You sign the agreement. You take the class. And we can talk, like this, but the old way is over." He looked at the paper for a long time. Then he pulled a pen from his shirt pocket. He signed. "What about Bree?" he whispered. "Bree is not on this paper," I said. He nodded. He put the printout for the class in his jacket pocket. "Okay," he said. "Okay." That night, Bree posted her last, desperate salvo. It was a blurry, tearful Instagram story, filmed in her car. "I've been betrayed," she sobbed to her phone. "Betrayed by everyone, my own family. You don't know the truth. You don't know what she did." Priya sent me a screenshot 2 hours later. The viewer count was pitiful. The comments were turned off. "Her engagement is in the toilet," Priya's text read. "The public is over it." She was a free radical, just as Ava had said. She had lost her co-conspirator. She had lost her public support. She had no leverage left. My phone pinged, a new text, from Ava. "She signed nothing. She's lost. And a cornered animal is the most dangerous one. The climax is coming. Don't get cocky." The animal does not give up. It just finds a new angle of attack. Ava had been right. Bree's silence, after the public fallout, had not been surrender. It had been tactical. She had been shopping for a weapon. The letter that arrived at Ava's office was not a clumsy, handwritten threat. It was a thick, creamy envelope with embossed letterhead from a law firm that occupied 3 floors of the most expensive building in the state. "She found a shark," Ava said, her voice tinged with a strange, clinical respect. She slid the letter across the desk to me. Bree was suing me. She was demanding, in formal legal terms, her fair and equitable share of the $120 million acquisition. My hands did not shake. "On what grounds?" Ava smiled. A thin, cold, predator's smile. "My favorite part, for providing the foundational childhood emotional support and business inspiration that led directly to the creation of LumenPath." I just stared at her. "She's suing me. For inspiration?" "She is," Ava said. "It's a nuisance suit. A shakedown. They're betting we'll pay them a few million to just go away, to avoid another public relations mess for Varys and Vale. They think you're a target. What do? We file a motion to dismiss." "No," Ava said. Her eyes were gleaming. "We don't dismiss. We don't settle. We accept. We agree to mediation." "Why?" "Because," Ava said, leaning back in her chair, "in mediation, we are allowed to present our case, and to get there, we request full, formal discovery." "Discovery?" "She just opened the door." "Marin," Ava said. "She just gave me the legal right to depose her, your mother and your father, under oath. She just gave me the right to subpoena the blog's server logs, her bank records, and the phone records from that mortgage broker. She thinks she's shaking us down. She has no idea what she's just invited into her life. This isn't a lawsuit. It's a gift." The mediation was scheduled for 2 weeks later, on a Tuesday. It was not at a library. It was not in a bank. It was at the law firm, in a conference room on the top floor they called the Catalyst Room. It was a cube of glass, suspended over the city. 3 walls were windows. The 4th was a massive, matte black screen. There was a single, dark wood table in the center. It was a room designed to make you feel exposed, a place with no shadows and no exits. They were there first. Bree, in a severe black pantsuit, flanked by her new, silver-haired lawyer. My mother and father were seated behind her, designated as material witnesses for her claim. My father stared at the table. My mother was nervously shredding a tissue in her lap, her face pale. Ava and I walked in. I sat down. The silence was absolute. The mediator, a retired judge with a face like worn leather, laid out the rules. Bree's lawyer went first. He spoke for 20 minutes. He was good. He painted a beautiful, poignant picture of a childhood lemonade stand, which never happened. He spoke of emotional labor, of Bree's unwavering support for my early dreams. He spoke of the sanctity of family and the unspoken spiritual equity Bree had earned. It was a stunning performance. When he finished, the mediator turned to Ava. "Ms. Roth?" Ava leaned forward. "Thank you. We respectfully, and fundamentally, disagree with the premise of the claim. My client is not here to negotiate a shakedown. She is here, as a courtesy, before we proceed with criminal charges for a pattern of harassment, wire fraud, and attempted identity theft." Bree's lawyer shot up. "Objection! This is a civil mediation. There is no—" "Discovery," Ava said, her voice cutting through his. She pressed a button on the table's console. The massive black wall flickered to life. "Bree's claim," Ava said, her voice narrating the slideshow, "is that she provided inspiration and support. Our discovery suggests a different relationship." The screen lit up. Exhibit A. The metadata log of 47 harassing voicemails and calls placed from 3 numbers, all registered to the Doyle family, in a 1 hour and 47-minute window on the morning of the acquisition. The slide changed. Exhibit B. The email draft, screen captured in the Harbor Light lobby. Subject: Equity gift? The slide changed. Exhibit C. The 60-page Community Partnership Agreement, which we are prepared to argue is a fraudulent document designed to obtain my client's signature, and thus her identity and likeness, under false pretenses in the Rookhaven Public Library. Bree's lawyer looked at her. He was seeing this, clearly for the first time. Exhibit D, Ava continued, her voice relentless. The faxed, fraudulent mortgage application from Fidelity Mortgage, sent from a fax number registered to Gerald Doyle. My father put his head in his hands. Exhibit E. Ava pressed another button, an audio file. The voice of Mr. Henderson, the mortgage broker, suddenly filled the glass room. Gerald said his daughter, Marin, was thrilled to help, given him permission to sign for her. My mother made a small, strangled sound and grabbed Bree's hand. Exhibit F, Ava said. The Rookhaven Confidential blog post, anonymously submitted, and the IP logs, subpoenaed from the blog's server, which traced that submission directly to an IP address registered to the Breeze Boutique office. The room was absolutely silent, save for my mother's ragged breathing. Ava turned the screen off. The wall went black. "We are not here to discuss my client paying you," Ava said, her voice low and dangerous. "We are here to discuss the terms under which my client will agree not to hand this entire file to the district attorney." Bree's lawyer was pale. He had come here with a story. Ava had brought a ledger. The mediator, who had been watching this all, impassive, finally spoke. He looked at me. "Ms. Doyle, this is an extraordinary presentation. Your counsel has made a very strong case. What is your offer?" This was my line. I didn't look at Ava. I looked at the 3 of them. My family, small and trapped, and exposed in a box of glass. "I am not asking for money," I said. My voice was clear. It did not shake. "I am not countersuing. I am here to close this." I reached into my bag and pulled out a single, familiar document. The family repair plan, redrafted, reprinted. I slid it to the center of the table. "These are my final terms," I said. I listed them. 1. You will all sign this legally binding, notarized apology. It specifically names the fraudulent acts. The text is attached. It is non-negotiable. 2. You will confirm that all outstanding micro-debts are repaid. The balance is currently 0. I glanced at my father, who looked up, surprised I had acknowledged his quiet act. This clause is satisfied. 3. You will all sign the permanent, irrevocable identity access and non-interference agreement. You will never again, in any medium, for any reason, use my name, my likeness, my social security number, or my finances. You will not post about me. You will not talk to the press about me. You will not contact me unless I initiate it. I leaned forward. And 4. If you violate this agreement, in any way, this contract is voided, and my counsel is authorized to immediately release the entire discovery file we just reviewed, Exhibits A through F, to the public and to the district attorney's office. It's a mutual non-destruction pact. I will not destroy you unless you try to harm me. Bree, who had been white-knuckling the table, finally found her voice. She shot up from her chair, her face a mask of purple rage. "You!" she shrieked, her voice cracking against the glass. "You arrogant, sanctimonious, you always thought you were better than us, hiding in your apartment, judging us. You couldn't just help, you had to ruin us." I did not stand. I did not raise my voice. I looked at her, and the anger I had held for 20 years was just gone. It had burned out. All that was left was the truth. "No, Bree," I said. "I never thought I was better than you. I just finally decided that I was not less than you. I'm not less than anyone. I am just done. I am done being your utility." "This is not a negotiation," her lawyer blustered, trying to regain control. "It's a surrender," the mediator said, his voice flat. He turned to me. "Ms. Doyle, this is a very thorough and one-sided agreement. You are demanding everything. You are giving nothing. What exactly do they get in exchange for this permanent silence?" Bree laughed, a high, thin, breaking sound. "She gives nothing. She's a black hole. She just takes—" I ignored her. I reached into my bag one last time. I pulled out a simple, cream-colored envelope. I did not slide it to them. I slid it to the mediator. "They get this," I said. He opened it. He pulled out the single sheet of paper. He read it. His eyebrows shot up. This is a press release," he said, baffled. "It is," I said. "It's the announcement for the Lumen Path Legacy Trust's first endowment, a 5-year STEM scholarship, fully funded. It will provide a full 4-year tuition for one girl from Oakfield, Ohio, every year, to study science or engineering." My father looked at me, his eyes full of confusion. Bree's lawyer snatched the paper from the mediator. He scanned it, looking for the trap. "My client's name isn't on this. This is just a PR move for your brand." "What's the angle, Marin?" Bree hissed. "A way to make yourself look like the town hero, the Doyle Family Scholarship?" "Read the name of the scholarship, Bree," I said quietly. The lawyer read it, his voice flat. "The Eleanor Doyle Memorial Scholarship for Women in Science." My father's head snapped up. He looked at me, and his face, the hard, defeated lines, just broke. His eyes flooded. "Grandma?" he whispered. You named it after your grandmother?" "It was her dream," I said, and for the first time, I spoke only to him. "She bought me my first microscope. She was the one who told me to apply for college. She was the one who said, 'Don't let them make you small.' She deserved to have her name on a university. Not yours, not mine, hers." My father put his face in his hands, and a lifetime of bluster and failure and shame came out in one ragged sob. "Oh, Marin," he wept. She would be so proud of you." My mother, beside him, let out a small, quiet gasp. She finally understood. Bree just stared. I could see her mind working, furiously. She was looking at the press release. She was looking at the scholarship. She was looking for the angle, the PR win, the way to spin this for her boutique. And she found nothing. It had nothing to do with her, nothing to do with them. I had taken the one pure, good thing from our family history, her, and I had honored her, and in doing so, I had surgically and completely cut them out of the victory. Her lawyer put his hand on her arm. He was advising her. This was the only deal on the table. The other door led to a criminal trial. It was over. The mediator looked at the three of them. My father was the first to move. He didn't even read the document. He reached for the pen, his hand shaking, and signed his name on the line. He pushed the paper to my mother. She looked at Bree, her favorite, her golden, broken child. Then she looked at the name of the scholarship, her own mother. She picked up the pen, and she signed. The paper, with 2 signatures, sat in front of Bree. The pen was next to it. This was it. The end of her grift, the end of her story, the end of her control. Her hand, trembling with a rage that had nowhere to go, reached for the pen. She stared at my signature, already at the bottom. With a sharp, violent scratch of ink, she signed her name. I stood up. I collected my copy of the agreement. Ava collected hers. I looked at the three of them, defeated, at the glass table. "This door is closed now," I said. "It's locked. The terms are the terms." I looked at my father. "If you want to have coffee, as my father, you know how to reach me. But this family, this business, is over." I turned and walked out of the catalyst room. Ava followed. The glass door hissed shut behind me. We stepped into the elevator, the doors closed, and I was encased in silence. I felt light, the weight of my entire life, of being the shadow, the ghost, the utility, the bank. It was gone. I had put it down. The elevator descended. My phone vibrated in my pocket. Not a call, a text. I pulled it out. It was from Diego. It wasn't words. It was a picture. It was a photo of a computer monitor, taken in the dark, in a hospital I didn't recognize. On the screen was the familiar glowing dashboard of LumenPath. A small, bright green indicator light was active. Below the photo, his text. "It's live. The first rural ER just went online. Tumblewood Creek, Arizona, hospital number 50. We did it. Marin." I stared at the picture, the little green light, the first of the 50 hospitals I had fought for, the first promise of Appendix B. I smiled, a real, actual smile. I put my phone back in my pocket. I took a deep, clean breath. The elevator doors opened to the lobby, and I walked out into the rest of my life. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Let me know in the comments where you are listening from. I'd love to connect and share our thoughts. Please subscribe to Lila Revenge Stories, like this video, and give it an extra boost by hitting the hype button so this story can be heard by more people.